welcome to this editorial interaction. My name is Hoshi Gaswala. I work for Businessworld, titled CEO and Managing Editor, but I don't know what I'm doing here as yet. I have to do everything. I'd like to thank, Mr. Chandrasekhar, CFO of Page Industries, for joining us. We've also got Keval Shah of SAP. So Chandrasekhar, what are the challenges and opportunities that you see in your industry, the consumer product industry, and how does the CFO play his part with these challenges and opportunities?
Very briefly, an introduction about me.
Please.
For the rest of the people. I've been working since 1988, and as you can guess, I'm a CA, cost accountant, and all that. And I'm also a functional consultant for ERPs. I've been implementing SAP and Oracle as a functional leader for most of my career, at least starting from mid 90s. And I've been worked in many countries, multiple industries which pan across, earth moving equipment, then engineering and contracting, then wind energy like Suzlon, or cement like Dalmia, and now the premium apparel like Page, and many companies in between. And I've worked with some of the big promoters in India. So my journey has been quite exciting. And therefore I've handled multiple functions apart from being a CFO. I hear the IT function reports to me, the CAO reports to me in Page. I also handle all the compliances, the secretarial and legal functions. So it has been 4 exciting years for me in Page Industries. And as far as CFO is concerned, we have never seen something in my life. And I'm talking 3 decades of experience. We have gone through startups and survival mode and turnaround in business and growth and funding and so on. But these 2 years have been particularly unique for a CFO and for most of the business leaders as well. So in terms of challenges which I've seen, though Page Industries has done its 4 best quarters in the history during the 2 pandemic years. So the 4 best top line and bottom line in the history of Page Industries have been recorded. So when you leave out, the lockdown quarters like Q1 of FY21, Q1 of FY22. So we have really come back very strongly, and there are multiple reasons behind that. But as a CFO, to be specific to your question, the challenges have been the volatility in the demand, the disruptions in the supply. The vendors either are not properly funded, or they have labor which have migrated back to the villages. They're unable to supply even if you pay them money. And then there is, the manufacturing capability itself in the pandemic has been quite affected. So speaking only of Page, 70% of all that we produce and sell are in-house and 30% is outsourced. So that is a big portion which is growing. So not only that, even your own raw material suppliers, the prices have shot up by almost 20% RM inflation in the past 1 year. So you're dealing with so much of uncertainty on the supply side with respect to the people, the labor, the resources, the availability of man-hours in the various manufacturing locations within Page and outside Page, and a lot of uncertainty. And of course, handling employees and their concerns. The COVID, many people got infected with COVID in the first wave, more so in the second wave, and now also. So there is a lot of disruption on all fronts. So the 2 years have been particularly challenging. And the opportunities that I could capitalize is, how do I establish a better connect with the vendors? How do I support them to pay their wages, their salaries, even their taxes, which they are unable to pay, by being flexible with them, not being purely commercial. So being able to pay them, organize funding via the Receivable Exchange India Limited, where they get funding of at the rate of close to 4 to 5% per annum, discount their bills on Page because of our own credit standing. So to unlock the bottlenecks for the vendors so that they supply, then we are able to produce, and then ensure that all the employees are paid. So we took a stand that every employee, every worker will be paid. No one will be let go, even during the pandemic. And very early in April 2020, we took that decision when the first pandemic struck, and when everyone is wondering what is going to happen. And there was no vaccine, there was no healthcare at the time. So we said we cannot abandon any of our employees, whether they're outsourced or they are factory labor. So everyone was paid in full. We never let anybody go, though we were not producing or selling much in those days. So we took hit to the bottom line consciously. So because of the way we have approached, I mean, I'm not saying only as a CFO, but then my management team together, we took this based on our own value systems and principles that we bring to business in Page Industries. We took the stand that everyone will be supported, regardless of the bottom line. And therefore, when the lockdown got lifted slowly across the country, and lastly so in the metros and so on, then the business partners supported us, the vendors, the channel partners, the wholesalers, I mean the distributors and the retailers, and even the employees came back and joined us, because they know that with Page we always have a job. We will not be abandoned during this time. So this is what I personally learned. And it's not just managing as a CFO, but then to have a heart in business, to ensure that what is it that they're expecting from us? What does the ecosystem expect from me as a CFO? How do I loosen my purse and ensure that everyone is able to run their families and their businesses in an environment of uncertainty? And also in the workplace, my colleagues in the HR have implemented a good health care. Doctors are available on call to any employee who wants an online consultation, and to just sort of calm them when they have their fears. And hospital beds were at a premium in Bangalore at some time. So how does one help them to get health care? Because even if you're an employee, if your spouse is infected, then you are not going to be able to productively do anything. Even when you're working from home, you are not able to fully bring yourself to work. Nobody will be able to do that. So to be able to put ourselves in their shoes, empathize, and then ensure that we are able to uh, you know employ the surplus and the reserves that we have for the right reasons. So that kind of approach has paid us rich dividends. We never knew that we would record the four best quarters in the history in the last 5 quarters. But then I would say this is a vindication of all the our approach, and sticking to the principles of doing business rather than just the bottom line has really seen me through this phase. And if I go back to April 2020, suddenly without any collections, any sales, the my cash reserves started dwindling day by day. So I was wondering how long can this company survive? Even if I take loans and then there is no sales for 6 months, what will happen to the running concern? So those question marks come to your mind as a CFO. Unfortunately, on the learning curve, I would say we learned to listen to the partners. We learned to, as I said, empathize, and then slowly got to some measure of comfort only in Q2 of last year. So,
Hmm.
and of course, these are all many things why we have done what we have done, is because of wanting to put yourself in the shoes of others and see what support do you expect. Even in a family, you have so many cousins, but when you are in really turbulent and difficult times, you will certainly remember and favor the cousin who stepped up for you without any expectation, right? So business is just the same, and we are human beings at work, and we have to bring a great deal of empathy. So I have learned immensely during this phase and in the process, and I'm very happy that these 2 years experience, though difficult, has taught me and the business what should be the template for handling this business going forward.
Thank you, sir. Impressive story. What we've seen with yours and several companies is that, having an empathetic approach to the entire ecosystem and just not, a selective set of stakeholders has helped. And, that's what you're saying. The last 5 quarters has kind of really helped you. Your stock price, I was just looking at it, is very impressive. Very, very impressive. Out of reach for most of us commoners. But, very well done, sir. So my second question is, how have your company plans? And, you already told us what's happened over 2 years and what's happened over the last 5 quarters. But how have your company plans and operations changed over these past 2 years? Any specifics, if you could tell us briefly?
A lot of thinking, in a lot of everything has changed. We thought that we are being a manufacturing company and in the premium apparel space, that we are ill suited for work from home. And I should say that we even have desktops uh, at work. Some people have desktops, some people have laptops, and it was essentially at the time need based. We realized that this is going to be a millstone. It is going to be an archaic approach, and we couldn't even order and get laptops, even if you are prepared to pay. So we ordered laptops for everyone, and now for the past 2 years, the corporate office is largely working from home, unless someone really needs to come. And they've all been enabled, and the connectivity, there were issues. People have gone back to their villages. They need to be provided a dongle and stuff like that. So one is that, and the other thing is how many of your business processes are really digitally enabled. For example, earlier, if you go back 2 years, you would be paying. You will sit for receiving a vendor's invoice. You will be receiving a GRN from store, and you will be looking for the signatures. And that is how a lot of the things, even petty cash, used to work. But I'm happy to tell you that all that within a very short time, we realized that we are not in the game. We don't know when the lockdown will get lifted when you go back to April 2020. So you need to really gear up to work digitally. And whatever the business is there, whether the business is 20 or 50% of what you normally do, you still need to serve customers. You need to deliver the goods to their doorstep. You need to ensure that all the financial and commercial processes of payment and collection are intact. That you can't do unless you completely digitize. So we realized that we are not at the time we were ready. So we very quickly learned, and today my people are much more productive and happy because they save at least a couple of hours in commuting, and they deliver far more. They have more flexi working hours. They start at 8, and maybe in the afternoon they have to go somewhere. They come back and do their work. So having this connect with the employees, employee engagement, having these regular town halls, stuff like that, I can go on endlessly, Hoshi. But then these are some of the things which we have come through.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, do companies in the consumer products industry, in your opinion, need a business transformation after this turbulent period?
Yeah, all the transformation which I spoke about is the reason why we are in business, why we have grown, why our partners rely on us is purely because we were able to transform our approach and digitize most facets of the business, whether it be e-commerce or even the offline stores which we have. This transformation in approach is required from a 360-degree angle. One, our customer centricity has gone up significantly. We have to ensure the reliability of supply. In a situation where many of the unorganized market, though we don't compete in the economy space for apparel, we are in the premium apparel. But people have relied on brands which can deliver the same quality with the same kind of pace across the board. Like just to give an example, the e-commerce, which was 3 to 4% in the pre-pandemic years, is now close to 9 to 10% of the revenues, and the revenues have been, as I told you, significantly higher, 30 to 40% higher than some of the pre-pandemic quarters. So that means 10% of a much larger base is a statement that the buying patterns, the preferences of the consumers have changed. So you need to change and design. So unless you are in the market and you have the choice of product that the customer wants, if your customer centricity is not sharpened, and your back office systems don't match that, then you will be missing a sale, and it will go to someone else. Similarly, as I told you earlier, you need to be extremely sensitive to the vendors. Give them visibility. Don't give only an order for 1 month or 15 days and say, and then penalize them if they don't deliver. Understand, empathize, and give them a long visibility as to these are the orders you will have for the next 6 months. Please try and help us. Do you need some money? How can I help you handle that? Your supply side and all that. So thus that transformation has to come in approach, and it has to be supported by digital enablement, as I told you. And it is back to the basics, and you need to really dig deep and transform your own approach, transform your approach to employees and vendors and customers, and then see what they want and see what they expect from you. And that will happen only when we seek feedback and go to them and ask them, what exactly do you want? Do you think I'm delivering? Is there something where I'm failing? What is it that you feel? For example, distributors say that when we do the sales return, you take a month to credit us. The sales incentives which we are giving us, it takes almost a month to give us the credit. So can you really speed it up? Can you work on automating so that can you at least trust what we are returning? So you give us an immediate credit, so my working capital goes up. Later on, if there is something wrong, you can always debit me. So many of these changes, not only you have to bring in yourself, but in your whole team. You need to coach your own team working offline in maybe 50 different locations. You need to act cohesively. You know how do you communicate to a vendor? Should be coherent and consistent, not only from you, but everyone down the line. So this transformation is the only mantra for success.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, you did tell us a lot about technology, whether it was PCs and dongles, all the way to the 9 yards. But I still want to ask you, the question is, what role has information and technology played during these times? I know critical, but where would you rate your organization in terms of the use of? Are you happy with it? Use of technology on a scale of 1 to 10?
It is a great question, Hoshi. And in the sense, if you go back to pre-pandemic, looking at the technology that is available, because I'm also a technology person, maybe not to the extent of KOL is, but I've always been implementing business solutions. So I would rather rate us in the range of maybe 3 to 4 on a scale of 10, where we were. And now we have moved, and even before the pandemic, this hunger that we must connect the last mile. We must digitize and connect with all our partners, B2B sort of. So that has been going on even before the pandemic. It sort of got expedited because of the pandemic that we had to step into all this. So we have implemented many solutions. For example, Vinculam, which is for the B2B e-commerce. We have also implemented JDA. I mean, most of you may be knowing now it is called a Blue Yonder. So JDA is one of the best supply and demand planning solutions. So with thousands of apparel styles and colors and sizes and combinations, and with maybe more than a lakh as far as retail store is concerned, you only sell when you have the right a garment in the right store at the right place, right? So this is it's a very complex algorithm. Not that we have solved it, but you need a lot more data analytics to be able to ensure that you are looking at the demand, the specific demand in specific stores, specific geographies, and you're able to then procure the raw material and produce that. So the reason why I say we moved to this 6 or 7 is we are still going. Keval might be knowing that we are going from SAP to S4 HANA for fashion, which we are about to start. And in fact, it was planned a couple of years back. We had to push it back, some of these investments due to the pandemic. So the S4 HANA will come in. We have also, as I told you, implemented this Vinculam and JDA, which is significantly impacted our business. It is one of the reasons for growth, definitely, what the numbers that we are reporting. We also gone for we have a product design team. So we implemented something called Stigo. All of these are SaaS or cloud-based applications, which we are increasingly going towards. And even, for example, the mundane task of labeling your individual pack, which you are selling to the consumers, or the bulk packs which you're selling to your distributors has to be labeled. So we implemented a solution called Nice Label. We have done many things like cutting plan optimizers and Procon shop floor automation for the backend. So these are many of these things are either implemented or close to going live kind of thing. So going forward, the investment in the front end, meaning your sales and distribution, and the back end, which is manufacturing and warehousing, as well as in the core ERP, is only going to further increase. Further increase. We don't have the ultimate consumer data, so the last mile is still not connected because as a business model, we are manufacturers and distributors. Page Industries sells to distributors who in turn sells to the retail outlets, which are either multi-brand outlets or it is exclusive brand outlets. So therefore, when a consumer walks in to a retail store, we don't have the data yet. Many businesses connect, have leveraged and benefit from the data of the consumer buying patterns and experience. Though we do know the buying behavior of our consumers online, we don't yet know for offline. So there is a lot more work to do. So I would still say we are around six, and then but we are very much focused, and we are implementing many of these solutions.
But in the consumer product industry, where do you see improvement areas for usage of technology going forward?
Not just maybe in the apparel industry, but overall in terms of the finance office or the CFO office across multiple industries. What I see in India is there is, from a regulatory compliance perspective, right, or from how we actually do our filings and so that entire process from a record to report perspective is something which is still tedious. Okay, is something which, for example, on a any company that you see might start their closing activities or quarterly closing or annual closing activities maybe about 8-10 days before the actual close and maybe finish about 8-10 days after the close, right? So that particular time period, you will see that every finance team, even the CFOs, are pretty much occupied and not really available and kind of is a tedious activity. How do we ease that particular pain of regulatory compliance, financial closing, as well as filings with the different authorities? What we have done is that we have created this collaboration engine wherein everybody that is involved with the financial closing, every documents that are involved with the financial closing, every step that needs to be taken is provided in a Gantt chart, in a project kind of a format, and on a single engine. So what happens is that we ease the pain around that, the entire financial closing. The second part is the actual compliance with the authorities. So for example, you are filing with the GST authorities, you are filing with SEBI, you are filing with ROC. All of those have been made streamlined as well. So this is something which we can definitely help a lot of CFOs with, and has been identified. Specifically coming to apparel industries and how you need how you deal with the supply chain that you have. Easing the pain on the procure to pay side is also very important. So there, what we have done is we have digitized the invoicing process altogether, right? Digitize the entire payment process to those vendors as to how they get funded from various financing organizations. So we do have partners who have helped develop these trade financing kind of applications, right? So this is something that we are also looking at.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, uh, my next question is something that I'm trying to figure out myself, across a lot of organizations. Sustainability, it's become a core topic. Everyone's talking about it. What does it mean to you and how are you addressing it for Page Industries?
So I think carrying on from what Keval and Hoshi were saying, I've been very fortunate in the mid 90s in Kuwait to work on the ERPs, much before it came to India. I've been my growth and my bandwidth is largely due to the automation and the my hands-on implementation of Oracle and SAP, and that has given me a more rounded business approach. Now, as far as sustainability, which you asked, and I've been fortunate because in Page, when I came in, I was asked to start the sustainability exercise for Page because in Page, more than one fourth of the shareholders are FIIs and FPIs and foreign investors from Europe, US, and so on. So there, there is a lot of awareness that not just your bottom line and your financial numbers, but how do you do on the environment, social, and governance perspective. It's very important that you look at these parameters. So I had the honor of starting this exercise in Page, and our year, I mean, in the 4 years, the third report is about to come as far as Page Industries is concerned. So as far as my involvement is total, I'm part of the steering committee driving the sustainability initiatives in Page. And one of the things that I learned in this process is it also has given a great deal of pride at all the operating levels in the manufacturing units and warehouse and so on, that they started looking at am I doing something which is favoring the environment, the water, the energy consumption, for example. It is not just the economic performance. So we have chosen particularly nine subjects as you call in the GRI, the global reporting. We reported on the GRI, which is a globally recognized sustainability reporting framework. We have chosen for our, you can't choose all the 20 plus topics in your first year. So we have chosen about nine material topics. And of course, clearly economic performance and governance risks and compliance are one. But we have chosen energy and greenhouse gas emissions also. And we have committed to a 20% reduction in greenhouse gas emission, and also we are committed to about a 150% increase in biomass consumption. We are committed to a responsible supply chain, that we are committed that we will spend 90% of our budget on local procurement of raw materials. And we will also perform about 80% of all our manufacturing vendors are currently also socially compliant. So we will perform a social compliance audit on them. When it comes to product stewardship, you know that many of the packaging material is plastic, and then we have implemented, we have begun the journey. About 60% of the total packaging materials will be recycled. So these are all like targets which are given in the next 2 to 3 years, very short term kind of thing. So already started. And Page has always been blessed with diversity and equal opportunity, which is one of the topics. So about 80% of all the workforce, about 24,000 that we have as on date, are female. And a lot of them are working in the manufacturing units as well as in the corporate. And we also have given a target, though currently we have 91% retention, which is the inverse of attrition. We have 91% retention of staff, and we are improving on this metric. Then the other one is the occupational health and safety, OHS, where we call. So we have almost recorded a 35 million hours, safe working hours. We have established a chemical management policy for all the manufacturing units. Though we do not engage much in dyes and chemicals, because we have ready-made fabric. In the supply chain, there is a lot of dyes and chemicals which are used. So we've implemented like what they call as an OCOTEC certification for all the critical fabric suppliers. So 87% of all our fabric suppliers are OCOTEC certified, and 92% of all the raw materials are renewable material. Also, in terms of water and effluents, we have achieved close to 82% recycling of wastewater. There is a 4% reduction in freshwater consumption since FY20. And I'm able to tell you all these things because we are at management level very deeply connected with the idea of sustainability. The vision statement which I've defined and published also contains sustainability in the vision statement as far as page is concerned. So my one of the things which gives me great pleasure is to be involved in the sustainability journey of Page Industries, and then we will be also doing an ESG deck and doing the Dow Jones, the DJI kind of rating for us. So year on year, it is a learning curve. It is a matter of motivating people. Apart from all their regular jobs, they may be electricians, they may be plumbers, they may be tailors on the sewing machine, they may be managers in the manufacturing unit or in sales. But how do you ensure that your product, your packaging, your manufacturing practices, your negative imprint on the environment is all measured? So whatever is measured definitely improves. So you introduce with the help of our consultants, and more importantly is the commitment, the passion, and the desire which we want to make this business, because it is not just about the top line and bottom line alone. And CFOs who have migrated to recognize the importance of technology and sustainability have, I think, a wonderful future, because it's at no point in time, even after 30 years, the learning has ever stopped. I'm one of the three people who are in the sustainability steering committee, and each one of us represent different spectrum. Of course, I represent from the finance and technology side and governance, and there are people on the people's, I mean, the HR side, and there are people from technology. So all three of us are equally interested, passionate, and we can handle the subject.
Mr. Chandrasekhar, last question. As a leader, I'm not going to just call you a CFO, and I think this question was correctly framed. As a leader and as your CFO, what are your priorities or projects for improving your business in the next 1 or 2 years? And if you've got any parting remarks.
Yeah, I just connect back to the sustainability. The sustainability is a voluntary project as far as Page is concerned. We are listed only in India. So though the voices have been coming from the many of our global investors, it is something which we chose to do, and very happy to embark on that journey. In terms of the key priorities, definitely I'm looking at the efficiency of all the OPEX and CAPEX spends, which may be in a growing concern with the kind of profitability that we had. Maybe we did not pay enough attention to it pre-pandemic. So I'm paying attention to the spends we have on advertisement, on the schemes, on the labor efficiencies, and to ensure that every spend that we do is connected to some business result, either in terms of production or sales or whatever, and then to establish very strong connects. So in that sense, I believe that what is not measured will never improve. So a lot of improvements, I mean, measurements have been introduced over the past 2 years across the board. Even, for example, the number of minutes a person is taking to process a payment, and a number of minutes one is taking to approve a purchase order, and how many people are in that chain, what value do they add. So looking at the things in a very minute and micro manner, because only from micro can you build, while you may have all the best ideas at a macro level in management, execution is key. So this is something I'm working on, and I've already done quite a bit. The OPEX and the finance has also contributed to profitability in the past 2 years, in improving the profits through a robust budget control system, focus on OPEX. It will continue to happen. While the second point would be, while we have an extremely good working capital scenario because the distributors pay us in advance, but we have about 70 days of working capital, and most of it is coming from inventory. So we are looking at getting the right quality of inventory, not just with us, but even with the channel partners, so that their investment goes down, but they have the inventory that they can sell. The turnaround of inventory in our warehouse and in the warehouses of the channel partners is something we are working on, which JDA has helped us significantly to do the supply and demand planning. So that brings me to the third point, which I've been talking about on and off because I have this passion for technology, is on the O2C and P2P and R2R processes. Many of them we have even now are not end-to-end seamlessly connected. We have introduced automation in bits and pieces in many of those areas, which have been largely driven by the business priorities, but seamlessly without human intervention, what we call as the RPA, the robotics process automation, where it will work seamlessly at high efficiency end to end, is something which I'm planning to implement going forward. So when we do all of this, definitely from a CFO and CIO perspective, these will deliver significant results to stakeholders and to Page Industries also.
I have to tell you, very impressed with your overall perspective and the way you are. And this is exactly, I think I started by saying the next level of CEOs is going to be the CFOs. So, I can wager for you also. Let's see, because I saw what CFOs were doing through the pandemic, but I think you've been doing a lot of good work before the pandemic. I'll take your autograph much in advance. So after that, you might not, and we'll connect with you on sustainability
Right.
in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chandrasekhar. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been one of the most pleasurable interviews I've attended, and I thank you and Keval, for the interaction. It's very it's a learning process for me. Thank you very much for your
Sir, I was the one who learned. Thank you.